Krishna skupnosti za zavest Krišne. Hvala glasbeni zasedbi za lep kirtan, ki ga je vodila na harmoniju Bhaktina Katja. Na mridangi jo je spremljal Vaduta Prabhu in hvala vam, zbrano občinstvo, za sodelovanje. Res smo ustvarili prijetno in izpolnjujoče vzdušje za dušo. To je prava milost. Še enkrat, Gaura Prahladananda. Današnjo lekcijo, predavanje, ki sledi, bo imela njegova svetost Prahladananda Swami Maharaj z naslovom Berimo knjige Šrila Prabhupada, inspirirano po verzu iz Bhagavad Gite, 9. poglavja, 3. vers. So, dear guest, welcome and all devotees to Sunday program in Hare Krišna temple, Ljubljana, ISKCON. Today's lecture will be by His Holiness Prahladananda Swami Maharaj with the theme, topic, reading Srila Prabhupada's books, inspired by a Bhagavad Gita verse from 9th chapter, the 3rd one. So, dear Maharaj, welcome to Vyasa-san. Thank you for taking the time and share your wisdom and inspire us with another lecture from Bhagavad Gita. Drago občinstvo, potem bo sledil seveda Gaura Arati, ples in petje pred božanstvi v njihovo zadovoljstvo. Potem bojo sledile zahvale in obvestila. Danes imamo tudi šrada obred, zato je vegetarijanska pojedina sponzorirana. Ostanite z nami, bodite v dobrem razpoloženju in Gaura Prahladananda, Hare Haribo.
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Shunyavadi Pakyajade Sitarine. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krišna, Hare Krišna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna, Krishna
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhangsa Brahmadakasharya Asadhara Satushi Shiman, His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande Hariva, Slava Zabrani Bhakta, Slava Shri Guru Shri Gaurangi, Om Agyanatvanandasya Gananjana Salakaya, Chaksura Militam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvaitam Savadutam Vrajana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shiva Sakans Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanshena Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sudadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakapa Trivyascha Kripa Sindhuvyevascha Patidanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge, text number 3. Ashwadadana Purusha Dharmasya Parantava Aprapya Mam Nivartante Rityu Samsari Vartmani. Those who are not faithful on this path, on this devotional service. Oh, actually, here a different translation. Those who are not faithful to this devotional service cannot obtain me, and O conqueror of enemies. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. So please repeat: those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me. O conqueror of enemies. Therefore they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The faithless cannot accomplish this process of devotional service. That is the purport of this verse. Faith is created by the association with devotees. Unfortunate people even after hearing all the evidence of the Vedic literature from great personalities, still have no faith in God. They're hesitant and cannot stay fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. Thus, faith is the most important factor for progress in Krishna consciousness. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that faith is a complete conviction that simply by serving the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, one can achieve all perfection. This is called real faith. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Yatatara mulani shechanena triptyanti yatskanda bhujo pashaka pranaharachayatendriyanan tataiva savarhanam atiteja. By giving water to the root of a tree, one satisfies its branches, twigs, and leaves. And by supplying food to the stomach, one satisfies all the senses of the body. Similarly, by engaging in transcendental service of the Supreme Lord, one automatically satisfies all the demigods and all other living entities. Therefore, after reading Bhagavad Gita, one should promptly come to the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita, and one should give up all other engagements and adopt the service of the Supreme Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. If one is convinced of this philosophy of life, that is faith. Now, the development of that faith is the process of Krishna consciousness. There are 3 divisions of Krishna conscious men. In the third class are those who have no faith. Even if they are officially engaged in devotional service, they cannot achieve the highest perfectional stage. Most probably, they will slip after some time. They may become engaged, but because they have complete conviction and faith, it is very difficult for them to continue in Krishna consciousness. We have practical experience in discharging our missionary activity that some people come and apply themselves to Krishna consciousness with some hidden motive. And as soon as they're economically a little well situated, they give up this process and take to their old ways again. It is only by faith that one can advance in Krishna consciousness. As far as the development of faith is concerned, one who is well versed in the literatures of devotional service and have obtained the stage of firm faith is called a first-class person in Krishna consciousness. And in the second class are those who are not Krishna conscious, or not very advanced in understanding the devotional scriptures, but who automatically have firm faith that Krishna Bhakti, or service to Krishna, is the best course, and in good faith have taken it up. Thus they are superior to the third class, who have neither perfect knowledge of the scriptures, nor good faith, but by association and simplicity are trying to follow. The third class person in Krishna consciousness may fall down, but when one is in the second class, he does not fall down. And for the first class person in Krishna consciousness, there is no chance of falling down. One in the first class will surely make progress, achieve the result at the end. As far as the third class person in Krishna consciousness is concerned, although he has faith in the conviction that devotional service to Krishna is very good, he has not yet gained adequate knowledge of Krishna through the scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes these third-class persons in Krishna consciousness have some tendency towards karma yoga and jnana yoga, and sometimes they're disturbed. But as soon as the infection of karma yoga or jnana yoga is vanquished, they become second-class or first-class persons in Krishna consciousness. Faith in Krishna is also divided into 3 stages and described in Srimad Bhagavatam. First-class attachment, second-class attachment, and third-class attachment are also explained in Srimad Bhagavatam in the 11th canto. Those who have no faith, even after hearing about Krishna and the excellence of devotional service, who think that it is simply eulogy find the path very difficult, even if they are supposedly engaged in devotional service. For them there is very little hope of gaining perfection. Thus faith is very important in the discharge of devotional service. Ashradadana purusha dharmasyasya parantapa aprapyamam nivartante rityu samsara vartmani. Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskadyade Siddharane. Here the word faith is used, and generally faith is taken in many different ways. People generally take faith as something blind. You have faith in something, and therefore you blindly follow it. But in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada writes in the purport that blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. One should not only hear submissively, but one should get a clear understanding through submission, service, and inquiry. In other words, faith does not mean blind faith. Real faith is based on experience. We have faith in something if we have experience of it. Now, we may not have complete experience. As a matter of fact, as long as we're not free from the material modes of nature, according to Bhagavad Gita, Ukramantam Stitim Vapi Bhunjana Vagunanvita Vimudo Nana Pashanti Jnana Chakshusha. That the foolish, they cannot understand what kind of body one is situated according to the modes of nature. The foolish cannot understand how the living entity quits his body, nor what kind of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained with knowledge can see all this clearly. So in the advancement of Krishna consciousness, our first business is to train our eyes with knowledge. So that training our eyes of knowledge is to see through the eyes of Scripture. To see through the eyes of Scripture has a process. First of all, we have to hear Scripture, and then we have to see in this world, for instance, what actually it says, what it means practically in our life. Now, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna says that there are different types of shiksha gurus who can instruct us about what is reality. And in that verse he says, Shiksha Guru Ke Ta Krishna Sarup Antaryami Bhakta Shesta Eduri Rup. That there are two types of shiksha gurus. One of them is the super soul in the heart, and the other one is the best devotee. They're both the same. They're both manifestations of Krishna. And of those best devotees, of course the super soul is equal everywhere, but of the best of the devotees, there are also other kinds of shiksha gurus who have experienced the best shiksha guru, of course, is one who sees everything objectively. Objectively means when he sees things as they're explained in the Bhagavad Gita. It's not that he sees things according to the modes of material nature, but he's actually situated in Krishna consciousness. Just like our perfect example of Srila Prabhupada, that when he dealt with people, he dealt with them as spiritual beings, not only according to their conditioned modes of material nature. Of course, he took that into account also, but his objective was spiritual. He had no material objective in dealing with anyone. His whole objective was to raise them to the platform of Krishna consciousness. Now there are others who are not on that platform. They see things according to their realization, but their realization is not perfect. But they can also assist us in advancing in Krishna consciousness, at least according to their platform, if they just repeat the words of the self-realized soul. In other words, their valid experience is the same, is included within the words of the self-realized soul. For instance, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says repeatedly, Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmani Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Swapake Cha Pandita Samadarshana, that the humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with an equal vision the learned and gentle Brahman, the cow, the dog, and the dog eater. Or as Krishna says in another place in the Bhagavad Gita, Samam pashanhi samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshwaram vinashavi vinashantam yak pashyati sapashyati. That one who can see the super soul and the soul in all bodies, and who knows that neither the soul nor the supreme soul within the body is ever destroyed, he actually sees. Samam pashanhi sarvatra samavasti tamishwaram nihenasyatmanatmanam tatoyati param gatim. One who can see that the super soul is accompanying all souls in all bodies, and the super soul is equal everywhere, does not degrade himself by his mind, and thus he approaches the supreme destination. In other words, when we have the modes of material nature, as Prahlad Maharaj said, there is no enemy in this world except for the uncontrolled mind. That when we see everyone as Krishna's eternal servant, acting under Krishna's direction, then there's no harm mentally or physically will do to anyone. Just like Srivas Thakur, he heard that the Muslim magistrate was going to come and attack him and his family. So he became very anxious, and he didn't know what to do. But then Chaitanya, remember, he met Lord Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya told him, he said, actually, I'm in the heart of the Muslim magistrate. Unless I tell him, he can't do anything to harm you. I'd have to tell him to come and harm you. Otherwise, he can't do it. Do you think he has any power outside of my whatever power I give him? And of course, still, Srivas left with his family on a boat. But when he was at the Srivas Anga, and Lord Chaitanya was revealing his different forms, and Srivas Thakur was before him, who happens to be Narada Muni, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed to him, he said, actually, there were no boats to take you across the Ganges, so I appeared as a boatman and took you across the Ganges. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paripasate tesham nitya viyuktanam yoga shemam vahamyaham. That if Krishna wants, he can come and help and protect his devotee. And if he doesn't want, then there's no one who can protect us except for Krishna. So the idea is when we see through scripture, as Krishna says, then we learn to depend upon Krishna. It's not that learning the scripture means that you learn a lot of verses and then you give a class and you quote different verses in the class, and in your daily life you depend upon mommy. Just like in the airplanes, sometimes the pilots, in the airplanes, they have this called the black box, and in the black box, they have recording of what happens in the conversation of the pilots and all the different factors of the airplane. So before the airplanes crash, generally everyone screams, including the pilots, and they find out what the pilots scream before it crashes, as I've told before. Do you know what they scream? That's right, mommy. So that's their shelter. That was their shelter from the beginning of life, was mommy. and it's a shelter at the end of life too. But we're supposed to scream Krishna, Hare Krishna specifically. Even that Muslim who was attacked by a boar, and in Arabic, I guess, there's haram, which means horrible. So when he was being attacked by a boar, he screamed out, Hare Ram. And he went back to Godhead. Or at least he got liberation. That's called Namabhas, by the way. So the idea is that to actually depend upon Krishna, and the best way of depending upon Krishna is to read Prabhupada's books. And then, if we become convinced that we're not this body, we have a friend who can help us if we ask him to help us, the super soul in our heart, and then Krishna is the ultimate goal. So Prabhupada is explaining this scientifically in his books, and if we read his books and we, number one, we become convinced that everything here belongs to Krishna, and that Krishna is the one. If he's happy, if he's pleased by what we do, then we'll feel a higher platform of consciousness. Just like even we chant every day, Hare Krishna, those who chant on japa beads every day, we don't necessarily roll on the ground while we're chanting in ecstasy. Most of our seekers don't appear to stand on end. But still we experience something different than we would if we didn't chant. There's a different energy. We're under the internal energy of Krishna. It may not be as intense as being in the fire of Krishna consciousness. We may just be on the outskirts feeling the warmth of the fire, but at least we're not in the cold of material existence when we're chanting Hare Krishna. So that way we have some faith that if I chant Hare Krishna, then if I try to put my mind on Krishna, I'm going to experience something which is spiritual, which is different from material experience. And I'm going to be protected from my three worst enemies. Do we know what our three worst enemies are? Does anyone know?
Lust, anger, greed.
Yes. Where does it say that in the Bhagavad Gita?
16th chapter.
Yes. Trivadam narakasya dwaram nashadamatmanaha kama krodha tatalovas tasmat etam trayam chajet. These are what Prahlad Maharaj says are our enemies. He doesn't say our mind is our enemy, although Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada used to say, in the morning we should take a shoe and hit our head 100 times with it. And in the evening we should take a stick and hit our minds 100 times. But it didn't mean literally. Sometimes the devotees used to take that literally. I remember in the beginning, the devotees would be chanting japa, and the devotees had a hard time controlling their minds. So I remember one devotee kept on hitting his head against the wall. I don't know if it improved his japa. It kept him awake. But that's not what it means. It means to conquer the mind, or as Krishna says in another, Prabhupada writes in another verse, or as Krishna says, conquering the mind. What is that? He said, Arjuna said, it's very difficult to curb the restless mind, Arjuna, because it's very difficult, turbulent, and it's just trying to control it is just like trying to control the wind. So, and then Krishna said, Sasam Shayam Mahabaho, Vinoda Nirgraham Chalam, Abhyasena Tukundya, Vairagena Chakriyate. Yes, it is very difficult to to control the mind, or to conquer the mind. But it's possible by suitable practice and by detachment. So suitable practice means if we hear about Krishna, even in the Bhagavad Gita, and then we try to see what it says, then our minds are in a different place. If we don't see what it says in Bhagavad Gita, then we'll have to remember what our minds tell us according to our conditioned nature. So it's actually Krishna consciousness should be a battle, a fight against Maya. In other words, Maya will just say relax and just see things the way normal people see things. Don't get extreme. You know, everyone needs a little bit of relaxation, and Krishna consciousness is pretty heavy, etc., etc. Take a vacation in Maya. Don't worry, she'll wake you up. It's like you take a nap and you say, Maya, you know, maybe we should use the alarm. She says, no need, I'll wake you up. And you take a nap, and an hour later you say, wait a second, Maya, you didn't wake me up. And she says to you, I fell asleep too. Sorry I didn't wake you up. Next time I'll wake you up. Yo yogas chalati manasa. As soon as one tries to become Krishna conscious, then Maya will try to derail one, delude one, bewilder one by so many different allurements. So it's a fight. Tasmar agara sambhutam ritsam jnana saratmanaha chidvainam samshayam yogam atishto tishta bharata. These doubts which have risen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed with by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, O Bharata, stand and fight. So to become convinced that I must hear Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, I must try to remember what it says and then see practically how to apply it within my life. And in spite of all the allurements that the material nature will offer me, I must try to apply it anyhow, especially in my relationships with others. Because Queen Kunti says in the Srimad Bhagavatam that all the disturbance in the material world is due to social interactions. Just like now we have these problems going on in Iraq, Iran, and everyone's wondering, I'm wondering, am I going to be able to take the tickets I bought, they're actually going to be valid in another month? Or will there be no gasoline and I'll have to walk to India? So everyone's in anxiety. What is it all about? Because people are in Maya. Everyone's in Maya. They think they're Iranians. They think they're Americans. They think they're Israelites. We think we're Europeans. And therefore we think that these things belong to me. Or they belong to you, but I want them, so you should just surrender to them, to all what you have to me, at gunpoint, or else you're in trouble. So this is all due to illusion, that we're the proprietors, and that we're all different from each other, that we've given ourselves so many different designations, and we're willing to fight with each other over the designations and over Krishna's property. So, in the material world with this mentality, we're all, as I said before, we're all more or less thieves, trying to steal from Krishna, but we think there's more honest thieves sometimes, and there's dishonest thieves. Of course, when we're born to a certain country, we live in a certain country, most people think, my nation may be a thief, but it's God has given me the right to steal. And therefore we're honest thieves. Every country thinks like that. No one thinks they're bad, everyone thinks they're good. Although, as I said in one book, famous book, there's a story about one man called Two Gun Pete. You've heard of Two Gun Pete? No. You've heard of Two Gun Pete. Yes, he's famous. Two Gun Pete was a associate of Al Capone. You've heard of Al Capone?
Yes.
Well, he was a very wealthy person. He was like the head of the mafia. You've heard of the mafia? Well, he's a very famous figure in the mafia. And so his Two Gun Pete was one of his associates, and he was called Two Gun Pete because if he was an assassin, a killer, but his reputation was he'd always kill all his victims with two guns. So he wanted to protect his reputation, of course. Everyone wants a good reputation. So one day he was on Lover's Lane, doing what we call an imitation Madhurya Rasa. And one unfortunate policeman put his flashlight into his car. So Tugan Pete took this as a maha aparad and shot the policeman. And in order to protect his reputation, then he got out of the car and took the policeman's gun and shot him again, because otherwise his reputation of Tugan Pete would be spoiled. Unfortunately for him, the police did not understand his inner feelings. And therefore there was a big chase, and they chased him to his hideout, and there was a big shootout. But before the Tugan Pete was killed, he wrote a letter to his mom. Everyone writes a letter to his mom before he... So he said, "Dear Mom, actually I'm a nice person. I try to do good to others, but people misunderstand me. Please take care of the cat. Your son, Petey." In brackets, Tugan. So even Tugan Pete, he thought he was a good person. He thought he was doing good for himself and others. But actually, under the spell of material nature, no one knows what they're doing. They don't know that everything we're doing under the modes of material nature is not very helpful to ourselves or anyone else. Because the material nature is very unforgiving. We may believe that I can forget Krishna and act independently, and somehow or another results will be good. Just like we read the newspapers and we hope maybe some arrangement will be made and peace will be in the world. But that's impossible. As long as people are killing animals, as long as they're just what to speak of killing animals, as long as they're breaking the principles, as long as they're defying the Supreme Personality of Godhead and refusing to use their energies in His service, then the material nature will sure to chastise anyone who does that. And that happens to be practically everyone in this world. And even ourselves, sometimes we find ourselves in more difficult situations, sometimes not so difficult. But for us, the devotees, aspiring devotees, these difficulties are meant to inspire us to take shelter of Krishna. That's all they're meant for. And when the non-devotees who are trying to exploit the material nature and exploit each other, when they find themselves in difficulty, that's also to inspire them to take shelter of Krishna. Unfortunately, many people have been so trained, so misled, so ignorant of what actually is reality, that they don't take it as an opportunity to correct themselves. They take it as an opportunity to fight harder against God and against the material nature. And therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, those who are foolish, those who are deceitful, those who are atheistic, and those who are sinful, they'll never take the devotional service, unfortunately. Although sometimes, by the mercy of a great devotee or by the mercy of a devotee, even those who are sinful and foolish and atheistic and deceitful, they sometimes take up devotional service also. But that's what we're trying to give people is the vision, not some ordinary vision, but the vision that we're eternal, our bodies are changing, but we're not changing. All of us, every living entity is eternal. And that in one's heart there's Paramatma. And Paramatma is appeared as Srila Prabhupada as his energy, as his instrument, in order to give us his message, especially in this age, to chant Hare Krišna, to take shelter of Bhagavad Gita and other such literatures. So that Paramatma within our heart can actually guide us out of the material existence and ultimately guide us into the hands of Krishna and his devotees. So it's not a sentimental faith, it's not a sentimental religion, it's actually a science based on reality, based on our eternality, based on our dependence on Super Soul within our heart, based upon contacting the Super Soul through following his instructions through Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, and ultimately allowing the Super Soul to guide us towards Krishna, guide us back to our original consciousness, not only in the spiritual world, but even in this world, where we can actually do good for ourselves and do good for everyone. So Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada's representatives, Prabhupada's Murti, the deities, they're all working harmoniously, they're all the same workings to give the greatest benediction to the conditioned souls, including ourselves, so that we can actually make this human form of life truly successful and become eternally blissful and full of knowledge in a loving relation with Krishna and his devotees forever, which is quite a long time. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj, for an inspiring lecture. My question is, does all three names in Maha Mantra, Krishna, Hare and Rama, are equally important, or how to say, are they equally potent?
Yes, they're all equally potent.
Thank you.
Srimati Radharani is always remembering Krishna. So when we say Hare, Krishna is there also, but in the mood of love. And when Krishna and Rama, who are the same person, they're always remembering Srimati Radharani and her associates, their energies, and so they're there also. But there's a slight difference between them. One is the love relating to the object of love, Krishna, love personified, Srimati Radharani, relating to the object of Krishna. And Krishna, when we say Krishna, is the object of love, his experience with relating to Srimati Radharani, the source of love.
Thank you so much.
So that's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayana. That Krishna came specifically because he wanted to experience three things. One, he wanted to experience the love that Krishna has for Srimati Radharani, the wonderful qualities that the wonderful experience she has when she feels Krishna's love for her, and the wonderful experience she has when she experiences Krishna's qualities, and the wonderful experience she has by experiencing her love for Krishna. So that's what Krishna wanted to experience.
Thank you so much.
Yes, anything? Yes.
Yes, I have a question. So there is this, thank you for a wonderful lecture. So there's this debate on internet whether which books of Prabhupada should we read, the originals or the second edition. What is your thought about that?
Well, you can read both if you want to find out which is...
Okay, so I have another question. So,
well, I just say this, that the original Bhagavad Gita, I mean, I read the Little Blue Bhagavad Gita, I've read all, matter of fact, I memorized both editions of the Bhagavad Gita in terms of the verses. And, I mean, it doesn't make any difference to me. I mean, there's certain things in, the worst thing is to read a translation usually. What to speak of the different, the minor differences between the two Bhagavad Gitas is such, it doesn't really make a difference. But I just gave a class yesterday in Russian, and I compare, I mean, that's really if you want to get into I mean, that's a whole, that may be a different Bhagavad Gita in some places. But otherwise than that, Krishna's God in both Bhagavad Gitas, so it's not a big deal.
like Prabhupada in 213, he translates Dhira like self-realized soul. So is that something wrong with that translation or no?
Well, if you want to find out the more subtleties to it, you can read the Srimad Bhagavatam first canto where it talks about Dhritarashtra retiring after leaving home after Vidura preached to him. And there it explains the difference between a Dhira and a Narottam. So if you want to find out some subtlety, but other than that, Dhira has a certain type of self-realization. It's not necessarily pure Krishna consciousness, it's more liberation platform. But that's also self-realization to a certain extent. It may not be full.
Thank you.
Yes.
In the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that in the 11th canto there are three types of
Mike?
In the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that in the 11th canto there are first class, second class, and third class attachment to Krishna. Is this the same like Uttama, Madhyama, and Kanishta, or does it refer to something else?
Uttama, Madhyama, and Kanishta. Translation. She has to translate. Did you want to translate it? So Kanishta means beginning, Madhya means intermediate, and Uttama means the highest. So you can be, for instance, if you want to be a tennis player, you could be a neophyte tennis player, you can be an intermediate tennis player, and you can be an Uttama, the best tennis players. But that doesn't mean that you're a pure devotee if you're an Uttama tennis player. So similarly, Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttama can also be in the third chapter of the Nectar of Devotion called the eligibility for pure devotional service. So Prabhupada uses the word neophyte or Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttama according to eligibility for pure devotional service. So Uttama means at the platform of Nishta, and the example of the Uttama Bhakta on that platform are the four Kumaras. Well, the Kanishta was Gajendra and Dhruva, and Madhyama would be the Jignasu, the sages of Naimisharanya. But the topmost eligibility was the four Kumaras. But they were not Uttama from the platform of attachment, as the 11th canto. So from the platform of attachment, and then you have neophyte from Shraddha all the way up to Nishta, and then from Nishta to Asakti, you have intermediate devotees, and then the highest is Uttama is Bhava and Prema. So it's a different way of looking at beginning, intermediate, and topmost, either from eligibility for accepting devotional service, which begins at Nishta, which is beginning of Madhyama, but Madhyama from the platform of attachment is, or Uttama from the platform of eligibility is only Madhyama from the platform of attachment. Is that clear? Okay, anything else? Yes, one more question.
Hare Krišna Maharaj, thank you. I did not hear whole the lecture, but I really like the part with the Tugan Pit story, which reminded me of one Al Capone story I heard recently on internet from one Muslim, like a Sufi kind of preacher in Islam. So there was supposedly some journalist that asked Al Capone, "Are you a good person?" And Al Capone said, "Well, yes, I think I'm a good person." And but explain, how do you think you're a good person? And he said, "Well, if I hear somebody is poor, to love each other, they don't have money for buy their own house, I help them, I buy them. Somebody needs a car from my family, friends, or I buy them a car. So, I try to do good things." And then she said, but what you are doing? Like, what is your business?" And he told her, you ask me about my person or about my business. so it all reminds me of Bhagavad Gita story, how Arjuna is having this doubt, and should he do these things that are looking contrary to Dharma. And maybe if you can tell something about this yin-yang world we live in, really.
Well, everyone thinks they're good, but that's from their perspective. But Prabhupada said, from the perspective of absolute truth, everyone in the material world who are imprisoned under the spell of the material nature are bad. and only those who are out of material nature are actually good. There's one story Prabhupada said, someone asked Prabhupada said to, one person stood up and said, Prabhupada, actually, I have a very bad occupation. So Prabhupada said, what do you do? He said, I sell drugs. So Prabhupada said, what's wrong with that? I used to sell drugs too. Prabhupada was a pharmacist. Okay, we'll stop there. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanand.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj, for your lecture and words of wisdom. Sledi pa ples in petje pred božanstvom v njihovo zadovoljstvo, Gaur Arati. So, dear guests, it's singing and dancing in front of the deities, Pancha Tattva, Gaur Arati. Gaura Pramanande.
Arutiko Soba Kiva Gayo Jaya Gora Chande Arutiko Soba
Krishna,
Jai Vishapad Paramahams Prabhupada Asadhar is among graciously see Bhakti-Vedanta Srila Prabhupada ISKCON Samstakacharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Vishapad Paramahams Prabhupada Asadhar Satushi Shiman His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti-Vedanta Saraswati Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridasa Ko Ki Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Paragana Shri Jeev Govala Dasragana Shadgo Swami Prabhu Ki Jai Prabhupada Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranitananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasidi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun, Ranakun, Giri Govindam Ki Jai, Matharanam Ki Jai, Vrindavandam Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Navarik Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Ayodhya Dham Ki Jai, ISKCON Ljubljana Ki Jai, Dandamai Ki Jai, Jumanmai Ki Jai, Srimati Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Srimati Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Shri Panchatattva Ki Jai, Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai, Go Premanande, go, Slavas of Radhi Bhakti, the Slavas of Radhi Bhakti, Slavas of Radhi Bhakti, Slava Shri Guru, Ishi Gaurangi. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya.
Shri Panchatattva Bhagavana ki. Sledi tretji del našega programa. obvestila, vabila in zahvale, na to pa prasadam. Lepo prosim za to, da nismo preglasni na ulici pred templom po zaključku programa, predvsem po zaključku programa Plus, in da se držimo reda pri parkiranju na ulici pred in okoli templa Skupnosti za zavest Krišne. Prihaja festival Šri Balaram Purnima 27. augusta z gostom, njegovo svetostjo, Čendramali Swami Maharažom, ki bo imel jutranjo in tudi festivalsko lekcijo. Obvestila lahko vidite na oglasni deski v pritličju sosednje stavbe pred recepcijo in v tempelski trgovini. Zahvale vsem za to, da so danes poskrbeli za to, da imamo prijetno vzdušje in program pri njih. Lahko gremo po vrsti, in sicer za oltar so poskrbeli za ikebane Navadvip Ganga Mataji, za cvetne vence je poskrbela Taralakši Mataji, za božanstva je danes izbral obleko Giridhari Prabhu in pri preoblačanju mu je pomagal tudi Markandeya Rishi Prabhu. Kuhari oziroma današnjo ponudbo za pančo tatvo so pripravili bakte iz templa, brahmačariji. Pomoč pri seckanju, po domače rečeno, zelenjave pa je bilo sa strani Lalit Govinda Prabhuja, bakte Andreja in bakte Klemna. Lahko gremo še naprej z vsemi obvestili oziroma prošnjami. Vabljeni ste v službo pri pomoči, pri pomivanju posode. Javite se lahko Bhumi Vraja Mataji. Seveda vsi novi gostje lepo pozdravljeni. All the new guests heartily welcome in our temple. At the end of the program you can come to me and have any questions regarding to our temple or the programs held. So heartily welcome to come to today's program. Danes imamo tudi Shraddha obred, so today we have a Shraddha ceremony. Spoštovani gostje, ob nedavnem preminutju očeta Milana Cirkovič, Adi Lila Mataji sponzorira današnjo vegetarijansko pojedino in vas ob tej priložnosti prosi za blagoslove za njegovo nadaljnjo duhovno pot. Sledi molitev in na to še Maha mantra. Dragi Šri Panča Tatva, Šrila Prabhupada in vsi ačarje, ponižno se vam priklanjamo. Ob tej priložnosti vas prosimo, da naklonite svojo brezvzročno milost duši, ki smo v tem življenju poznali kot Milan Cirkovič, oče Adi Lile Devidasi. Naj ta duša končno dobi zavetje, ki je v razburkanem oceanu življenja edino stanovitno in izpolnjujoče. Naj na svoji poti, ki je ne poznamo, stopi v smer svoje izvorne ljubezni do vas, samo izpolnitve. Prosimo vas, odpustite ji vse napake in jo vodite nazaj v njen izvorni dom. Hvala vam za uslišanje naših molitev. Hare Krišna, Hare Krišna, Krišna Krišna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krišna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krišna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaura Pramanande, Hare Hare Bo. Hvala vam. Današnji prasadam bomo stregli v šotoru na dvorišču, zato vas prosimo, da naredite eno vrsto pred njim in seveda prednost imajo otroci do 7 let, družine z otroci in starejši. So also in English, today the prasadam will be served in the tent outside, so you make a line and the advantage have kids, then families and Matajis and older senior Vaishnavas. Program Plus je tudi danes ob 7. uri zvečer z Lalito Govindo Prabhuja, zato ste lepo vabljeni. Gaura Prahladanande, Hari Bol. Hvala vam, da ste z nami preživeli ta popoldan. Želimo vam prijetno nedeljo še naprej. Ostanite z nami in seveda dober tek. Sledi pa še molitev pred prasadamom. Lahko skupaj v en glas. Sharira vidya jal jodendriya tahakal jive pele vishasagore taramade jivati loba moy sudurmati takecheta katrina sansare Krishna boda doya moy Koribare jiva joy svaprasada nadilobai senamrita pao Radha Krishna gunagao Prime dako, še čitanje, še panča tato Mahaprasadam ki, jajni taj, jajni maj, Gaura Prahladanande, Hari Hari. Seveda stopite in naredite tudi darshan z božanstvi, dokler je oltar še odprt. Ostanite v razpolenju, Gaura Prahladanande, Hari Hari.